Hello, friends. It's Chapo. It went great. I want to thank everyone who came out and see us, and I'd like to thank Stavi Baby and Donzi, the great band Donzi, who opened for us last night. Please check out their music. Well, we are, we've been road warriors on tour. So, as promised in an earlier episode, we are calling upon you, the listeners, to fill out about an hour here today. So, we have opened it up to your questions and queries to three of the greatest minds of our generation. And to begin, we got a lot of calls, a lot of good questions. So thanks everyone who submitted. But I'd like to discuss some overall trends in the questions we got, because we got a lot of questions along the same lines, and I think maybe we could most efficiently answer a lot of questions by outlining some of the major trends in the calls we received.
I would like to just say thank you to everyone who submitted. You did a great job of following instructions. I was genuinely impressed about how non-irritating most of the questions were. Good job listening to directions. I'm proud of you all.
Yeah, you guys came through for us. So, okay, first overall trend of the questions that were submitted. Big shout out to the nation of Scotland and all of our Scottish listeners. I don't know if we've selected any of your calls, but we always enjoy hearing from you, even if we can't understand what the fuck you're saying. I mean, the Scottish accent is one of the coolest accents in the world, but you mad cunts up there, you have a great way of talking.
We may not understand you, but at least you're also hideous, and you were essentially the overseers to the plantation that was the British Empire.
No, seriously, shout out Scotland. And hey, if any of our Scottish listeners, if any of you are friends with Limmy, hit him up, because I would love to get Limmy on the show. Doon back down, double doon. And then adjacent to Scotland is, of course, all of our wonderful Canadian fans.
And embarrassing. Your accent is ridiculous. Stop it.
Scottish accent cool, Canadian accent not so much.
That's what the Atlantic Ocean will do for you.
But shout out to our Canadian fans. Look, nothing is on the books yet, but speaking for myself personally, my touring goal in 2023 is to finally do a Chapo Canada tour that goes from Montreal to Vancouver. Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, Alberta, somewhere in Alberta. We got to, support the Wexit movement. But I would love to.
None of it? We'll do show none of it.
Nova Scotia, maybe? No, definitely Montreal, Toronto, one city in the middle of Canada, and Vancouver. That's my dream for sometime in 2023. Not making any promises, but I would love to tour Canada sometime in the near future. Next up, this was unexpected, but we got a lot of questions about Cormac McCarthy and the novel Blood Meridian. Probably one of my favorite novels ever written. We may have to do a Chapo book club on that. So for everyone who asked a question about Cormac McCarthy or Blood Meridian, I say to you this. The truth about the world is that anything is possible. Had you not seen it all from birth and thereby bled it of its strangeness, it would appear to you for what it is. A hat trick in a medicine show, a fevered dream, a trance populate with chimeras having neither analog nor precedent, an itinerant carnival, a migratory tent show whose ultimate destination after many a pitch in many a mudded field is unspeakable and calamitous beyond reckoning. Next up in the overall trends of the questions, thank you to the black listeners of Chapo who have kindly called in to support us, but have also plaintively asked us to have more guests on. This is something to work on. I can only say yes. I am terminally white, and as is my social circle for the most part. But this is something that I'm aware of, and I just never want to appear patronizing or only having minority guests on to talk about minority issues or things like that. But yes, we hear you, we see you. You are seen. We will do better.
I want to add a retort to that. I don't like having any guests on. It's annoying to email people. You have to email upwards of 4 people. It takes too long to schedule things. There should just be no guests, and that includes people of all.
Another thing we noticed is big shout out to all of our trans listeners as well. We have a lot of trans listeners, and I was gonna say. Just sending love to you. I've many of you have contacted me to talk about what the show means to you, and I just want to say I think that's cool, and we will always love our trans listeners. We got a lot of questions about China, where it's going, where our relationship is going, and will there be a conflict? Can there be a transfer of hegemony? And will we start World War III over graphics cards? To this, I simply must plead. a very limited base of knowledge. I don't know almost anything about China. I think it's very hard to get reliable news about China in the Western press or the Chinese media for that matter. So I really would be out of my depth talking about China. But look, China, it's going to be the 21st century. I don't know. We all better get used to it.
For followers of Matt's vlogs, Matt, in the next few months, you want to take on a China book, right?
Yeah, I want to read a book about China, and then I'll know everything. One book, and that'll take care of the whole thing, and then I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. No, I have no idea.
The thing about China is, wouldn't want to live there. I'd probably get arrested for most of the things I do. They're, whether you're pro-China or anti-China, we definitely don't agree on lifestyle choices, whether it's gaming or probably the specific type of vape I have. But, multipolar world is coming, whether you like it or not. Will China's zero COVID policy pay off? Will the Western world be so bogged down by long COVID that we need double Vyvanse to get through the day? Who will win the productivity war? Will Dane come back? We'll find out. But, if you're China or you're America or you're NATO or you're the EU, all I can hope for is a good game. Go Astros, go Phillies.
And you know what? It's going to come down to who wants it more.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, when you want global hegemony, you have to extract more raw materials from the periphery than the other team. That's just what it comes down to.
And finally, we got a few questions about the promise and failure of the internet. Is there anything left of the promised potential for mass solidarity and creativity through democratized communication, or is hyper-individualized discourse held the only possibility left of online? I would say it's way more the latter than the former, and this is something I've been thinking about recently. I think just the internet and technology, the promise of technology obviously hasn't materialized. There are things I like about the internet, but it is not led to more democracy or certain freedom of expression or anything like that. But not only that, I think the internet is getting worse. And I think things like Meta and all of these new debacles of just losing, 10 Apollo missions worth of money trying to create Wii bowling is just a cover for the fact that the internet has plateaued and it's not going to get any better. And things like AI and robots and VR and shit are mostly chimeras that are marketing terms that are going to be used to inflate another bubble that's just like Internet 2. I think the internet is getting shittier, not better.
First of all, I don't think that you can, since about 2012, I don't think you can quite delineate the internet from the rest of culture. It's no longer a sequestered space. It just is everything now. It is all culture. All culture is affected by it. It affects all culture. I do think that we sometimes get a blinkered view of things because we are on sort of the third most used social media platform, which is also the most ephemeral, most reactive, and least creative. The internet that mass media consumers and politics sickos are on definitely sucks, and it is getting worse. That said, I do not know that the internet I was on in, say, 2005 was necessarily perfect. Yes, I was there, but nostalgia is completely unreliable. There were things that sucked. There were things that were unfunny. People still beat things into the ground. But I do actually think that there is a huge amount of creativity and interesting things going on the internet. I never thought it could be a device for solidarity. Technology is never going to be the deus ex machina that causes mass politics necessarily. But just as far as people doing interesting things, I think YouTube in the past 3 or 4 years, people are doing much more ambitious and creative and impressive things than I ever saw 15 years ago. It's not covered nearly as much as Twitter, despite having an exponentially larger user base. But I've seen amazing documentarians. I've seen the Gen Z equivalent of MST3K. I've seen all sorts of things. And I wish people wrote about it more because I do think it's a genuinely very encouraging cultural sign.
It is cool in some place like YouTube. And yeah, I agree, Undercover, that you can have a whole ecosystem of people who are making their livelihoods doing media on something as niche as winter camping and survivalism in Canada. that could be somebody's job and is providing millions of views and entertainment for something, and it is genuinely nice and neat. And there's a lot of bullshit on YouTube, but there's a lot of great stuff that would not be made or be able to be seen without the internet. So, I mean, there's some stuff there.
A lot of stuff that I like on the internet. There's a lot of my friends are there.
We love that, don't we, folks?
But internet pornography has gotten much better, much better. It just seems it's like it's this one step forward, two step back thing, or like every new advance in like convenience, ease, or accessibility creates another problem. Because like all the movies and TV shows are on the internet, but then you have to like subscribe to all the different like streaming services, and guess what? Not all of the movies are on the internet. I think the promise of the internet would be fulfilled if there are two websites. One is called Movies, the other is called TV. Both of those websites contain every movie ever made and every TV show ever made. And then and also, crucially, no autoplay trailers.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
They can't do that though, because that's how they fake their numbers of views.
Right. I mean,
they count every autoplay, like, oh, you watched it. Boom.
Well, the autoplay views and Meta, as Will was talking about earlier, go into an interesting series of thoughts about this period of the internet, which I think is equivalent to the 1970s. We're seeing a bunch of technologies that are in their infancy and are the equivalent of like shitty at-home 3D glasses or smell-o-vision, all the things from the 70s that people made fun of in entertainment technology that later, either got phased out or maybe they took one part of it that was interesting and made it into something else. In general, I think all media and entertainment is in an awkward period like that where there are some ideas that could be potentially interesting, but both the people working on them and the technologies themselves are nowhere near ready for public consumption. I think that a lot of the authors of the current internet, people assume they were a lot smarter than they were because they were people who they were businessmen in a zero interest rate environment, while there was a historic overvaluing of equities. And now, as things sort of return to mean, we're seeing Mark Zuckerberg wipe out $700 billion of value in like a year and effectively having the salaries of almost all of his employees. But I think that, again, there's still so many signs of promise, and whether it's us doing it or something weird like a Belgian inventing a good version of Meta or whatever happens, I am still very encouraged by the amount of creativity and work ethic that I see in places, that aren't Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. And I think there's more amazing things to come that I, again, do not think will be politically transformative.
There's also a lot of hot chicks on the internet.
That's true. That was not always the case. It used to be if there was a girl on the internet, it was like, why are you only taking a picture of your eye? Just kidding. That was everyone doing that. That's what you do when you're 300 pounds and you don't want people to know.
All right, should we transition into some questions?
Let's go to listeners.
All right, let's start with a nice, easy over home plate one. This is from Billy J.
If shit ever really hit the fan in terms of climate change in North America, what do you think the inevitable takeover of Canada by the United States would look like?
This is a great question. This is one, I know Matt has considered. But, Canada, it's just sitting there. Most of it, no people there, nothing. Just timber and natural resources. Plus, roughly 1/2 of 1/4 of all the fresh water that's on the planet. That's right. We need those Great Lakes. We need those Great Lakes. So, if future climate disaster scenario, the capital of the United States moves from Washington, D.C. to Buffalo, New York, which will establish a beachhead for the American invasion of Canada.
Yeah. And then you get an NFL team in Moose Jaw. It'll be great.
What would it look like if the U.S. took over Canada? I don't know. What was it like when InBev brought Budweiser? Did you notice anything? Maybe change some logos a little bit.
Yeah.
Canada is practically America.
Yeah.
I mean, there are now murders in Toronto solely because they want to be like one of our dilapidated inner cities, not for any other economic or social reason. People in Toronto were like, drill music's cool, we should kill each other. That's the only thing that happened.
Another thing I'll say, like one thing that I think America taking over Canada that would provide a net benefit to Canadians is that we would absolutely get rid of this French language bullshit.
Oh yeah,
no
that
more
would be very
Quebecois.
nice. The
That'd be-
Quebecois, you
Yeah.
better shape up, motherfuckers.
This is America now. No one, you're not speaking French.
Yeah, that's done for.
No, that's done. That's over.
Everyone always thinks they're going to be the generation that gets rid of that weird hick French, and they always end up speaking it. So I think the more likely scenario is that the entire Western Hemisphere is speaking that bizarre dialect by the time of our deaths of natural causes.
All right, next question.
All right. This is from Olivia C.
Hey Chapo, first time, long time. As a trans woman, your recent discussion of young male social and sexual isolation got me thinking. Could we as a society solve this problem by making it more socially acceptable for dudes to turn into chicks and let the whole squad hit?